Well, hello, everyone. I am Michelle Blakely, owner of C. Jake and Jane Train. I help outstanding fitness professionals be brilliant business people, and I am thrilled to have you guys with us for continuation of our workshops in Fit Pro Summer School. Today, very excited. We have Jame DiNaso, longtime dear friend, colleague, Renaissance man. You okay with that, James? But I'm going to read you his bio because it's a lot of stuff, and I gotta get this out there. Two things to start. One, if you need me for anything, you want to schedule a chat. I put a link in the chat to schedule a chat. That's a lot of chatting. And then I'm going to include James' email address for all of you as we go along. So if you have questions directly for him afterwards, please go ahead and do that. There's still room in Fit Pro Summer School if you want to take advantage of that. So please let me know. But otherwise, let's do this. 3 burning questions in 30 hot minutes. Okay. Jame DiNaso. For the past 30 years, James has owned and operated a performance training facility in the United States, has trained thousands of individuals and athletes, including professional athletes in the NFL, NBA, MLB, is a published author and holds a master's degree in exercise science. James is a 7-year former Illinois State Director for the NSCA and in 2011 won the gold medal at the GPA Raw World Championships. He is the co-owner of Practical Kinesiology Company and creator of the Shoulder Saver system. James presents and consults nationally as a fitness industry expert. And I have to say, James has a special place in my heart because he was the first person to give me a shot to present for the NSCA. And I'm delighted that we became like grandparent mentors when then I brought on someone to have their first shot to present for the NSCA. And we worked on a project together for called the Revenue Rescue Kit when COVID hit and we were all blindsided. James, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Guys, as we go, please make sure you put any questions you have in the chat. James is with us today to share his secrets, his do's and don'ts for having a very long, successful career. So we're going to kick this off right away. Question number 1. How did you make it against all odds as a fitness professional? And I'd like you to, you don't look how old you are, so I'd like you to tell everybody when you started and what the landscape was like when you started.
So I actually started in the business in the 80s. I started working for what was then gyms. We didn't have performance training centers. There was no business of personal training back then. We just had a gym. And the thing about the gym business was if you owned a gym, it's kind of like a cult following because the people that went there were usually people that were into bodybuilding or powerlifting, sometimes Olympic weightlifting. It was not very mainstream. At that time, you had things like health and fitness clubs, which more kind of catered to like the racquetball kind of, I hate to use the word country club, but people would go there and it was social, nothing wrong with that, but it really wasn't considered performance training, personal training. It wasn't anything like that. You might have a few pieces of weight training machines around, but that was it. So when I decided to get into the actual business, it just wasn't established. So I feel fortunate in my career that I got in at the time when I was able to watch the industry just literally explode and blow up into what it is today. I was always kind of a bit of a science junkie when it came to training, but there wasn't a lot of information out there. So in the late 80s, when the communism kind of fell and the Berlin Wall fell, I don't know if anyone's out there old enough to remember those things, but what happened was a bunch of sports scientists from East Germany, the Soviet Union and whatnot, they all came to America. And the Olympics back then was not just wasn't just sports. It represented various countries with different philosophies, political ideologies, economic systems that competed against each other in sport, but the winners were considered superior in their country. They wanted to say our system is better than yours. So if we win in sport, it's just an acknowledgement. So to make a long story short, all these scientists came over here. I started reading their books, and I got into the science of training early, probably earlier than a lot of other people did. I certainly wasn't the only one out there, but I was early on. And so that kind of grew into whole business with me. And I just rode the wave, and I just can't believe how far sports performance training, personal training, and whatnot has come. Even the degrees back then, the only degree I was really able to work towards if I wanted to get a degree in undergrad was cardiac rehab. Really wasn't much out there in sports performance in that. So here we are today, and I took an interest from being a competitor in various lifting type sports, and just extended my career, saying, hey, what a great career. I could just open up my own gym at the time and kind of make a little bit of money to fund my competition, hobby. So that's kind of how I wound up where we are today, and we're 35 years later. So
and you did something really unique that most of us don't do anymore in terms of one of the distinct differences. Of course, I'm always looking at things from business side. If I'm not mistaken, James, you bought the property that your gym was in, correct?
correct. My dad and my family's been in construction my whole life. And so when I told my dad what I was going to do, he said, I'm nuts. He said, what do you think you're going to work out the rest of your life and make money? I said, yeah. And I remind him of that today.
Oh, that's a sweet moment, isn't it, James? That's a sweet moment. We can tell our parents, I shouldn't have been a dancer because I was going to waste my brains. That was what I was told. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes right as a kid, but usually I find out, as I get older, my parents become more geniuses. They're so smart. But my dad, being in construction, said, well, if you're going to do this and go all in, you need to buy and have your own place, because he thought I was going to fail. That's really what it was. So he said, if we buy a building, we refurbish the building, put some apartments upstairs, that'll carry some debt load for you. Then if something goes wrong, at least you have a piece of real estate. So I borrowed some money. We put the gym in the downstairs. I'm calling it a gym right now because it wasn't a sports performance facility or a personal training facility yet. And we opened up for business. I lived in the apartment above, and that all started in 1990, and boom. The years just went by. So quite a few things over the years. Yeah, I've watched it evolve. So
Amazing. And something, when James and I were prepping for this, something we said was, there are some, but when you look around there, I'm really grateful he's on this call, because there aren't necessarily a lot of us that stay 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years, because the wear can be rough. So we've got these next questions primed exactly for that. All right, James, question number 2. What do you wish you would have known at the start or middle of your career that you learned the hard way?
So initially getting into the fitness industry, so to speak, as a gym owner, like I said, I kind of saw this as an extension of my competition career, and kind of a platform for me to be able to continue. I was not really thinking about business the way I should be. However, I've always been goal oriented. So I always wrote down my goals. And so I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best coach, trainer out there, best gym owner, whatever it was at the time. And I went for it. I wrote down goals. So that was kind of like my marketing plan. I was never really thinking about business as much as I was about achieving the goals of doing competitions. And then when we evolved and we started to change from just a gym to personal training and sports performance, everything started to change. So I would tell people, yes, you need to know your craft. Yes, it's good to go to all the educational seminars and find out how to do your craft, because that really carried me through. I became an expert at what I did, and that really made me kind of stand out, and that's what really brought business in. The business was not coming in because I was a great marketer or that I did anything on the business end. I simply established a reputation for myself, and that in and of itself, through just word of mouth, brought people in. And as I evolved and I became more proficient at what I did. And as the industry evolved and as I adapted with it and tried to stay one step ahead, I was able to be successful. But I think, and I, to my embarrassment, I say this, I think I was more successful simply because of how well I was with my clients and what I was doing at the time to stay up and be scientific than I was as a good businessman. I still to this day don't think I'm a really good business person, but I'm pretty good at my craft just because I've been doing it for so long. And if you can't say that after 35 years, then something's wrong. So I don't say that arrogantly. There's tons of good people out there now. A lot of people that are my friends, and we share and exchange information. So I would tell everybody, learn about the business side. Just because you're good at your craft doesn't mean you're going to be able to run and operate a business.
I think, and I like that you're saying, you know, I'm hearing both, right? That the being good at the craft does serve the business really well, but I do love that you're saying that, because my heart breaks a bit when I do see people that are really great practitioners, but because they're really truly caring about their clients and they're sincere and they're good at what they do, but that they're thinking about, you know, this whole workshop today is about a long career. They're thinking about leaving because the burnout is so bad, or that the revenue isn't coming in, or I'm working these hours and I'm not, you know, making what I really should be making. That if there was some attention to the business side, it could sustain them to keep doing their good work. And then sadly, on the flip side, there are some people that really push in hard on the business or the marketing or sales that actually aren't very good practitioners, right? So I thank you for saying that. I think that's really valuable. And there's a lot of people in your camp where they're committed to being excellent, but a little more attention on the business side would serve them would really go a long way.
I will add to it though, to maybe I'm being a little too hard on myself. One of the things that we did do though, I say we because I started out with a partner. I took a chance. I had someone come in. This is back before everything was electronic and computers and cell phones. Someone came in with a coupon book and said, "Look, we're looking."
Excuse me, James is still not computers and cell phones and electronic.
Probably never
Continue.
will.
Right.
But this guy comes in with a coupon book, says, "We're asking businesses to put a coupon in our coupon book. If you do that, you know, you can do it for free and it'll help bring in business." I said, "Okay." So what I did was just right there on the fly, I said, "I'm going to put a free 3-week membership to my facility and I will personally train everybody." And again, this is before the word personal trainer was even a thing. And I said, "I'll train everyone that comes in the door." Had no idea, because my partner Tom's like, "Are you crazy? We're giving away 3 weeks." I said, "You watch. It takes 3 weeks to create a habit. These people are going to come in here. They're going to love it. They're going to stay." He goes, "Yeah, right." 90 people signed up the first 3 days. We had a retention of like 80 something of them. And they all stayed. And so we started training them. And so this started the whole phase of personal training. Then we had athletes coming in. That started the strength and conditioning thing. And again, this is all prior to formally having any type of, you know, strength and conditioning degrees or anything like that out there. So we kind of were blazing the trail. And I know in my area, there was no one doing it. Nobody was doing it. And so we established ourselves, and we had a whole system bringing people in. Then we got involved in the science of it. So those are the kinds of things that just kind of worked out for me, in spite of the business stuff. So we did do some things correct, you know. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
of course.
not, but we that's what we did. So
And I think at the time, in context for everyone listening, I would say, and why in part that worked at the time was because no one knew about it. Nobody knew what it was, right? Where today, putting out 3 complimentary weeks of training, we know everybody knows what it is, and everybody is then suspicious because, right, we know what we roughly know what it costs, and we think, well, it can't really be that good. But back then, that was a brilliant business idea because you had to get people to experience it to even know they wanted to buy it, right? It's like before there was Instacart, before there was Uber, before there was like email. Like you didn't know what it was, so you had to get, there had to be a push to try it, I think. And then of course, James, they went in, it was excellent and they stayed with it. If they went in and it was free and it wasn't good, they wouldn't have stayed with it. So you had the two awesome things at the same time, I would say.
That
If anyone's asking.
time, I don't think it would work today. So you'd be selling yourself short if you did that today. So,
But it points out that, hey, if you have an idea and nobody else is doing it yet, right? Maybe you need to, maybe that is one thing you do need to make it really easy for people to try it, right? You trainers out there, coaches out there, with something, if you have one of those ideas that isn't being used yet or isn't familiar yet, right? People need to know what you're talking about. Okay, question number 3. And I'm trying not to put my fingers up because I make balloons or fireworks or hearts happen or something. So that's hard for me. Okay. What choices or things are you so glad you did over the course of your career, including even those things that like fell into your lap?
a couple things. I'll break it down into early career and late career. How's that?
Great.
Early career, I was not a good presenter or speaker.
Really?
Yes, and I've greatly improved my skills quite a bit, and I do it all the time now. But I forced myself because a good friend of mine that I knew at the time, that was a coach, said, "What you do really is coaching, and if you want to be a good coach, you need to be a good communicator." And so, coaching and training people is the art of getting them to do something, but you have to be very descriptive and be very efficient in how you tell them, what you tell them, and the way you tell them. And if you become a good communicator, you're going to become a better coach and a better trainer. So I never forgot that. He didn't say that in that many words, but you get the idea. So I took that to heart. I knew I didn't really like getting in front of people and speaking. So there was a college in my town, and I was just right around the same time I received that bit of information and advice from my friend. One of the professors from the college stopped in and said, "Hey, I teach a communications class. We're trying to go around and find local business owners that would be willing to come in and talk to us about your business and just tell my class about how important communication is with your business and whatnot." So I said, "Hey, that's a good idea." So I said, "Sure, I'll do it." He said, "Well, you got a full hour. This is the date. Come on up to the room." And so I did. I brought a friend with me and I said, "No matter what, I want you to critique me. If I do something wrong, if I don't sound right, whatever it is, mannerisms, you be a tough grader on me." So I went up in front of the class, and surprisingly, I did a good job, to my own surprise, because I thought I wasn't going to do a very good job. And then I listened to some of the criticisms from my friend. He said, whatever I could improve on at the time. And so I take notes and I just kept practicing. So I tried to sign up for every group in town that would hear me speak, like about fitness. Signed up for the, what was it?
Toastmasters.
Well, no, it was like Kiwanis Club, Take Off Pounds
Oh.
Sensibly. The clubs, Take Off Pounds Sensibly. Anyone and everyone. And I just started booking speaking engagements. And as my knowledge grew, as my career grew, I started getting more and more. And then toward later, the mid part of my career, I took it to another level. I said, "You know what? I was always a decent writer. Even in college, I thought I could write fairly well. So I said, and this would be my advice to anyone out there that does strength coach or personal training, not only become a good communicator, learn how to express yourself both verbally and in the written." And that has taken me so far, because I started publishing articles. I published some studies. I did a lot of different things, and I surrounded myself with good people. And it drew a demand for me to have speaking engagements. So I literally went in front of speaking to 10 people at the Kiwanis Club, to speaking in front of a few thousand people at the national convention for the NSCA. So it really makes a big difference. And I tell all my interns that have come through, learn to read, speak, and write very well, and especially as it pertains to your field, and you'll go far. And I think those are skills that are not necessarily developed. We always think about the, periodization and training and programming. We never think about communication as much. And we are in a communication business. You're trying to get people to do things that you want them to do for their own benefit, and they're paying you for it. So with that in mind, you have to be able to communicate well. And the idea of taking complex subjects sometimes and breaking them down into sizable, digestible pieces that people can understand when you explain to them what you're trying to accomplish is another thing. So understanding the science, knowing how to speak to the layperson about it, and then being able to execute it. So I've always said a balance between a trainer that's a good communicator, understands how to program, but also understands how to bridge the gap between the science and the practical application is going to be very successful in training somebody.
I did not expect that answer, and I love that answer so much. I know I presented recently for something unrelated. It was for a female entrepreneur group, and I had to present all about myself, which I've gotten very used to. When I start a presentation, I say next to nothing about myself, and I get to it because they're already there, right? They don't need to necessarily know all your background. But one of the things I realized was in my own way, James, like I made myself have a Friday quickie blog post with my first company every Friday morning. And in the evolution, I think I did it for about 7 years. So every Friday morning for I basically had to have an essay written. Sometimes it was a recipe, sometimes it was, something, an announcement, but generally it was right. And boy, you want to get good at something, just make yourself do it a lot, which is exactly what you're saying with if you're nervous about presenting. And then I would also say that's really timely because we're in an era of AI, and I think it is going to get better. But even right now, you can tell when something isn't, in your voice or written by a person, and your voice matters. So having the skill of being able to communicate effectively. And for me, some of it, what I see with my trainers and studio owners is being able to communicate clearly. Like, we don't want 3 volleys back and forth on what day and time you were talking about. And I know that sounds really elementary, but it's not. Like, your people are busy. Customer service is important. And if you're an effective, good communicator, you're going to go a lot farther faster for sure. I think that's really valuable. And then, of course, as coaches, like cueing. I don't know about anybody else out there, but I made the mistake of too many cues, right? I overwhelmed my athletes at first. And I was like, no, you've got like 1 or 2 things. That's it. That's all they can fix, between lift A and lift B. And what a great reminder. Communication. Yeah, I love that. Okay.
It's also led me to kind of an offshoot. So they consider me an expert witness for liability cases for the fitness industry. So I work for a company that provides expert witnesses for attorneys. So I get brought into court. I have to write reports that are discoverable, meaning both attorneys can request that information, but provide that information. They get to read my reports. My reports carry a lot of weight. You have to write in a lot of legal speak, and you also have to be able to get up on a stand in court under oath and be able to explain and the science. And sometimes you have juries, sometimes you have bench trials. So that's another thing. So it kind of led to that too. So I also do that, and I enjoy that too. So
Right. Well, and you're also, I don't know if you guys know this about James, but his business, Practical Kinesiology, has a lot of, I hope this is okay, I'm talking about this, James, has a lot of contracts with, government buyers, right? So like first responders and agencies where you have to go through a significant amount of bureaucracy and you have to make a really good impression, right? He's got that, that B2B element to his business. And James, do you think that being able to communicate effectively and succinctly and understand, research and data in making your case has been beneficial in terms of the success of that company as well?
absolutely, if you can't communicate something, because they're a hard audience when you're brought in,
Right.
by a government agency to speak to 100 law enforcement officers that don't want to be there because the chief's making them be there. You better be an effective communicator, and you really need to know their stuff. And they'll be able to tell if you know your stuff, or if you're a phony, or if you can't do it well. You lose credibility right away. So you have to be able to perform, and it can be a little nerve-wracking. It's like getting up, you don't know your audience very well, and you get up in front of them, and sometimes they're very hostile. I've been in front of some very, very hostile audiences, and usually by the end of the day, they've softened up quite a bit, and they're in line to talk to you when you're done. So if you can do that, you know that you're an effective communicator. So I kind of pride myself on that. I certainly have a lot of faults I need to improve in other areas, but I think I'm pretty good at the communication thing. So it's helped me tremendously.
And it sounds like that, whatever it is, guys, with your, with your businesses and careers, right? That lesson of he felt he wasn't good at it. So he threw himself into it a lot, right? So as an outsider, I wonder if that resilience you forced yourself to get through in speaking for Kiwanis Club and the Weight Loss Club and that, right, everything at the beginning, you're like, well, yeah, this is a really hostile audience, but I've dealt with being totally, unprepared as a speaker before. So I'm a prepared speaker now. I can get through this, that resilience skill or muscle was beneficial.
Yeah, and you got to prepare for anything. I was at one really gigantic conference I got asked to speak at, and I had oh my God, they were 2 1.5 hour sessions on different topics. It was related to sports performance. I was in front of I don't know, 500 football coaches, and I had to speak 2 separate times on 2 separate issues and topics. And the AV equipment went out, and I know, Michelle, you've experienced this. So I had to manually do the visuals and also go through the entire presentation, and it was rough to do, but the audience liked it. I just said, hey, this is what the cards I'm dealt with. This is 5 minutes before I'm going on. I need to go on. These people paid. I got to deliver. So you have to expect a lot of different things. You got to be able to adapt and deal with it. I do want to say this much though. Another thing that I've been fortunate over my career that I think will help people out there that might be listening is I've always surrounded myself with good people. If I would not surround myself with anyone questionable in the field, or if, from a philosophical standpoint, I didn't agree with what they were doing, I just wouldn't surround myself with them. I'd listen. I'm open-minded. I'll listen to different opinions, but the quality of person you surround yourself with. And I have been so fortunate over the years to have some of the best interns. Right now, working at the facility, I have, 3 of the best people I could possibly have: Jennifer, Malia, Amanda, and Neo. I know she's not with us anymore, but I mean, what a fantastic group of people that are just awesome. And so it's easy to be successful when you've got good people around you. And so I couldn't have done it without all the help over the years. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody over the years that has been, influential in my life, giving me opportunities, and that were open to letting me learn from them. So that's really important, that you learn from other people. The old saying, when the master is no longer a student, he's no longer a master. I really believe that. You have to be continually a lifelong learner. I think I am. I'm interested in subjects far beyond just exercise science and training and competing and all those types of things, but be open to learning, and be open to being humbled a little bit when you think you kind of have a system that works and whatnot. Be willing to throw everything in the garbage and start all over again if somebody comes along with a better bird box. You have to be able to do that and not have an ego, and add that to your toolbox, and you'll get better. But if you just say, this is what I do and this is how I do it, and that's it, and you're very rigid and dogmatic, you're going to be in trouble. So
What a perfect idea to end on. And I just want to say, as much as you're saying you've done a great job of surrounding yourself with good people, as someone who's known you, professionally for, I don't know, how long? 10, 15? It's been a while. 10, 15 years. James is amazing in his own right, lifting other people up. I've never seen, which can happen in our industry. I've never seen his ego or sense of what he knows ever get in the way of giving someone else an opportunity to grow or to try something or to, share an idea. And again, he really does. So the things he just said to all of you, he really walked the walk. And for those of us that are on, the more senior side of training, we need to be doing that for people starting out and coming into this, to be a little bit less of a, we know everything energy, and give them guidance and give them help and give them solutions, but stay open to, what they're really struggling with and where they might need help, and get them to that. So does anyone, we're at 30 minutes. We did it. I didn't talk too much. I didn't make us run over. If anyone has a question, James and I'll stay on for a little bit, but otherwise, so glad you all joined us. If you're watching the recording, so glad you made the time to do this. I'm going to put James' email address in the chat so you guys can have that. We're going to stay on here for just one more minute and look at, I want to make sure I get your email address right, James. So I have to search it on my computer. We're going to stay on here for just a minute. If you have a question, put the question in the chat. I know it takes a second for that to pop up, but we're so glad you're here. If you have any questions for me, please send them, schedule a chat with me, or you can email directly at michelle@cjakeandjanetrain.com. But James, we're just super, super grateful you made the time to do this and give all this wisdom to everyone.
No, I appreciate it. I like one of the things when you've been around for a long time, like I have in the business, one of the most gratifying things is helping out the up and comers, and it's nice to have interns. Like I said, I have the people that are there now have all come in, and I'm just really fortunate to have them. They make my job easy. So it's really good. I'm in a good place with that. So.
And I've met them, everybody. They're great. They're so great. They're really great. Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you so much, James. We're gonna log off. Everyone, please have a wonderful day. And then next week, we're going to have the fabulous Curtis Hayes, who, if you need any marketing help on the digital side of things, he's going to give us some fantastic takeaways that are not going to be over our head. Okay. We're going to make sure that this is approachable for everyone, but I know he's going to have some gems. And for those of us in Fit Pro Summer School or 9-week turnaround grads, please make sure you show up on Friday for summer private business coaching. Can't wait to answer all your questions there. But thanks so much, everyone. A million thanks, James, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.